Welcome to Becoming the Lion Podcast. I'm your host, Joey Zatmary. This podcast covers a multitude of topics ranging from health, fitness, entrepreneurship, personal growth, and just becoming the strongest version of yourself, both mentally and physically. We dive deep into the hero's journey together and awaken the lion within all of us. Quick ad for our sponsor, Forever Fierce. Guys, if you're a follower of the brand, you know that I have sweet swag. Although I love doing shirts and apparel, it's really not my primary focus. However, it's important to have swag as a way for you to market your brand, whether that be t-shirts, long sleeve, 3/4, sweatshirts, shorts, etc. And that is where Forever Fierce comes into play. They're a specialized team dedicated to selling apparel in the fitness industry, and they handle the entire process for you. So that's designing, printing, and delivering everything from start to finish. And the delivery part is by far my favorite because I have screwed up tons of orders in the past, and with everything that I do, sometimes it's hard to fulfill everything. So they do order fulfillment. They have the experience. It's going to save you time. It's going to save you money. And honestly, it's going to save you a ton of effort. So if there's someone who's looking to grow your brand with apparel, I 100% would use Forever Fierce. So go check them out on their website, foreverfierce.com, and also on Instagram, FRV, the word fierce, and tell them Zat Strength sent you. So thank you so much, Forever Fierce, for sponsoring the podcast. What's going on, guys? Coach Joe, Becoming Lion podcast. And here we are. We have two guests today, and I've been trying to bring you guys a whole different flavor, a plethora, a panel of guests, and sometimes I just do one and someone else. Sometimes I got two people. I'm going to have three people on plus me, so we'll have a party of four in the future, and kind of just doing this to see different dynamics of how it works. I think it's a nice variety. So it's going to be great. So we have my man Steve, who was on, and you guys are starting to get to know Steve. He, since the last episode, has been a committed member of the Den now. So he's officially a member of the Den, and he's starting his fitness journey, and I'm really excited for him. So thanks for coming on, Steve.
Thanks for having me. Week in, and I'm a little sore, but it's good.
So how are you feeling overall with everything?
I feel good. It was surprising to me how good I felt after I trained. You know, for those that didn't hear the last episode, I was away from any kind of physical activity for a really long time, and there was a lot of anxiety about starting back up and how much it's going to suck and how much it's going to hurt. And you know, it went better than I thought. You were really good helping me through the sessions, not let my ego get in the way and push too hard and you know, damage myself or something before I was ready. So it was good, and the atmosphere here is fantastic. Like, everybody was super welcoming, super cool. People who are clearly in very elite shape, folks more, you know, in between where I am and where that is, and everything in between. It was really good. So
you didn't feel like intimidated once you were kind of in here going through stuff? You felt comfortable?
I was intimidated by myself in the parking lot and the 20 steps it took me to get in here, and then it was kind of melted away because of the atmosphere. Yeah, quite frankly, it was a pretty cool culture here.
You got to meet Mr. Zeke, right?
I finally met the famous Mr. Zeke. He kind of looked me up and down. I gave him a minute, and then he was cool. I was petting him, and he's a good boy.
Gave you the seal of approval, and he even brought him some treats. So it was going to be high up on the
I'm totally trying to bribe Mr. Zeke with beef-flavored treats.
And we have a bunch of stuff we're going to talk about throughout this podcast. So Steve had kind of put some questions together that he wanted to run by myself and also my second guest, which brings me to Coach Matt. So Coach Matt has been on the podcast numerous amount of episodes in the past, in season 1, season 2. He's a coach here at the Lions Den full time, and since then he's gotten some promotions. So first promotion was he became the fitness editor for zatstrength.net. So he does all our articles and content for that. So if you guys are reading the articles, Coach Matt is the one writing and publishing those, does a great job. Got a YouTube channel. And then now he is my videographer. So we link up 3 times per week where he's helping me keep the consistency with the YouTube. It's just been a huge help. And I've talked about that, you know, on Dave Tate's Table Talk episode, of just the importance of and just the value that it brings when you can have somebody who's helping you along with that. Just because being a business owner, you have multiple hats, and sometimes it's tough to get it all in. And also, when you are videoing, it can kind of take away from the training at times, and it's kind of a hard hand to balance. So Coach Matt is doing that. So if you guys are digging the YouTube content, he is the one behind the frequency of the uploads, and then I'm trying to get at least 1 or 2 videos out myself. So we're really kind of posting like almost 5 days a week right now. It's been pretty crazy. But the big thing is well, first off, Matt, say what's up.
What's going on, guys? I think last time I was on, we were talking about aliens in Ohio. So
that was a great dude. That was one of the best episodes analytically. Like,
really?
Oh, dude, that was what kind of made me question, like, should I just keep this like a fitness podcast? Because, I mean, this sounds like messed up, but like, I didn't really have any value to bring to that podcast. Like, I was just listening, but when I looked at the analytics, it was like the amount of downloads that podcast got. We were talking about aliens and conspiracy theories, and we were drinking a little bit. Like, things that were coming out were just, I was like, dude, like, I don't know if we should publish this. Like, people are saying some sketchy stuff. But that was like when I realized, okay, I think we can talk about other things besides fitness, and I think this podcast can still continue to grow. But the big thing I want to talk about with Coach Matt before we get into the questions that Steve had prepared is, Matt, tell him what you got going on in about a month.
Yeah, so in a month, I'll be racing my first ever Ironman in Cambridge, Maryland. So that's been what I've been training for like the past 6 months. At the same time, I have been keeping up with my strength stuff, so I didn't just like let the strength stuff go to the side. So I've actually got the Ironman sandwiched in between 2 strongman competitions, not like high pressure strongman competitions, but more so fun ones. So I had to keep my strength up. But the Ironman's gonna be huge. I'm really excited for that.
And this is like a full Ironman.
Full Iron distance, yeah. So it's a 2.4 mile swim, 112 point something on the bike, and then a marathon to close it out.
Now, I want to ask you, what in God's name made you want to commit to something like that? And I remember actually, how was that, like a year ago? How long have you been training for total?
It was 6 months in total. I feel like a year ago is probably right when we kind of first joked about it.
Yeah, so we were literally having a meeting, and I've always thrown around the idea of like, I'm going to do something crazy with endurance. I know I can. And then I was just talking about it with Matt, and literally I get like a text, or it was maybe his Instagram story or a text or something at night, and it was just the picture of his confirmation of him signing up for an Ironman. And not to lie, like it was like $700, right?
Oh, it's a lot of money.
Yeah, on top of all the other things you have to put into it. So I was literally just like, holy shit, like Matt just pulled the trigger on something like crazy. But yeah, like what made you want to do it?
Yeah, so this has been on the bucket list for a while. But what I was kind of telling Joe is like, as I get older, I don't think I'm going to want to do stuff like this, nor am I going to have the time to like fit this kind of stuff in. Like thinking about people that are thinking about people that are like running a business at the same time, or like have a family at the same time, and then like, yeah, I'm going to go bike for 6 hours. You guys have fun. Bye. I'm just like, I can't even imagine that. So on the bucket list, I don't think there's going to be like a better time in my life to have gotten it out of the way. So
yeah, and we've read, or I think all three of us are reading the Goggins book or have read the Goggins book, and he talked about when he did have to train, it was like he had to wake up at like 2 or 3 in the morning, he'd get in X amount of miles, then he'd go to work, and then his lunch break was just out there running. So yeah, I could see that being like crazy hard to do. So in the sense, it is cool kind of like what you do with us, because one, we're in the space, we understand, and it's kind of like, even though you're not the owner, like you have the same kind of schedule like I do, where it's like you can figure out like when you do this, when you do that, it's flexible. And the time commitment's got to be astronomical. Like you were just telling me a funny story. Well, you can tell them yesterday about what happened, but you were trying to PR on it was like going to be 100 miles.
So this would have been my first 100-mile bike ride. And what I didn't tell Joe is like I had the distinct thought in my head like right before it happened too, is like nothing bad has happened to me on the bike yet.
Oh. Well, besides the bee.
Yeah, okay, so the bee did happen.
The bee,
I did take a bee to the face, so there's that. That one happened at the tail end of a ride too.
Dude, that was crazy.
So that one was a bee to my lip, and it literally looked like I had gotten like full on like Botox injection into my lip.
Dude, I came in when I saw him and sitting on the couch, and like I was looking at the water cooler, but like talking to him, like not actually looking at him. But I had a quick glance in my mind. I thought for a split second, I was like, he just looks a little different. But it was so fast that I didn't actually get to really look at his face. And I start talking to him about bees, ironically.
Right.
I'm talking to him about bees. And he's just like talking to me like no big deal. And then he goes in the bathroom, and I look at his Instagram story. And no lie, dude, it looks like he got lip injections. Like his lip was so huge. And then he comes out, and I'm dying. And I was like, Matt, I literally was just talking to you about bees, and you just played totally cool with it, didn't even mention anything. And I just happened to look at your Instagram. It was just such a funny sequence of events. But anyways, that was the first thing.
That was the first one. Yeah, bike's on a thin line with me right now. So this one, I was 85 miles into my what was going to be a 100-mile PR. Had that thought in my head, I'm like, nothing bad has happened to me, and my front tire just explodes on me, which if you ever had like a full tire blowout, it's actually very scary. So there's like,
First of all, it's loud.
yeah, it's loud as hell.
Road
And-
bike tires have like 100 pounds of pressure in them most spaces. Yeah.
and that hit me in the leg with like the pressure from the air. So I'm like, what the hell just happened? And then you're trying to control your bike, which if you turn at all, you're gonna fall off. So I'm like, I'm good that I didn't fall. Happy with that situation.
Yeah,
but
could've
now
been
I'm
really
sitting
bad.
there at mile 85 with my blown out tire. I have everything I need to fix it except my mini pump.
So what did you proceed to
So
do?
I'm
Matt?
now sitting on the side of the road,
No.
blowing up the tube for my
Oh,
tire like it's a little balloon. I got it to maybe like half pressure, and thankfully only had to ride 7 miles back on like a tire with a half pressure
Oh my
tube.
goodness.
Yeah,
Wow.
And the bike made it out okay?
the bike is fine, the rim is fine. That tire is fully gone, so like that tire was like full on punctured, full blowout. So sometimes you can salvage your tire out of that, and you just gotta replace the tube. That tire is just toast.
So you had a tire with you?
Yeah, so I had the tubes
Okay.
on me, and I just literally just blew them up on the side of the road with my mouth.
Oh my gosh, were you exhausted?
Like it was weird because like I went from being like super tired from the 85 miles to just angry as hell to like, I guess it was just adrenaline dump, and I was like super focused, and like all the tiredness went away, so it was
Yeah.
fine.
What were we? I saw something on Instagram. Was it the Tour de France where everybody just crashed in the beginning?
Yeah, there was a lot of crashes this year.
Oh, dude, but it was like the whole pack, like literally the beginning of the race. The guy just wiped out in the front, and it literally caused the whole. Remember we were talking about?
Are we
that?
talking about the woman with the sign incident, or
that was brutal too.
Yeah.
I don't know which one it was. It was just a big ass bike race, but I just remember watching like one person just like dominoes, dude. The entire thing just collapsing, and I was like, "Gosh, that sucks so bad." And then like, what happens? You just have to get up and just take off, or
So
does
if
it
you're-
stop the race? Like what? Like what's
The
deal with
race
that?
does not stop. There's I was a big Tour de France fan, so watching this year, you mentioned the lady with the sign in the one of the earlier stages. First of all, for those that don't know, it's 21 days of over 100 miles each. Like it is a suffer fest, this race, going up mountains, all kinds of stuff. And these guys are usually, 140 pound, just lungs and legs. There's not a lot to these guys. So when they go down, it is there's damage. There's very frequently guys break collarbones and
Yeah.
shoulders and hips and stuff like that. So this lady was trying to get on TV. The whole race is televised, and there's motorcycles that kind of ride with the riders, and there's helicopters, and they're filming it the whole way. So 7-hour event each day, and this lady was like leaning out in the road with a sign like "Hi Grandma" in German, like trying to get on TV. And some rider came by
and clipped?
She clipped the sign with his handlebars. So if you're good, they're
Oh
going 20
my
miles an hour, right?
gosh.
So he jerks his wheel, which he's now down, and then there's 150 guys right on his back wheel. Like half of them went down.
That sucks.
And they immediately, it's funny, it's probably that adrenaline rush that you were mentioning
Yep.
that you had. Like they all stand up, they're like kind of looking around. Sometimes they have road rash. All those guys shave their arms and legs so that if they do go down, they just slide. They don't like
Yeah,
shred
yeah.
their skins and stuff. So they all kind of stand up, take inventory of their bodies, they check their bikes. There's mechanics that follow, so like they might bring them a new tire or a whole new bike,
Mm-hmm.
and they just keep on going, and they don't even stop. And then they look down, they realize, all right, I don't have my sunglasses, I don't have a water bottle, and they all have radios, so they'll like radio back to the car, like, I need glasses, bottle, whatever.
Yeah.
And then the craziest thing is there's a medical car.
Mm-hmm.
So they'll be driving along 25 miles an hour, and they'll like put their arm in the window of a moving car, and there's a doctor like wrapping up their wounds and like getting them back on. So they don't. To your point, they don't stop. The race keeps moving.
But if it's 7 days, do they all just decide they're going to sleep at some point, or can someone, if they don't want to sleep, can just keep going?
No, there's a set duration each day. So there's a starting line and a finish line each day.
Oh, okay. So then
And
you're
then-
forced to rest, and then the next day, come back out
you
same
go
time
again.
or whatever. Oh, okay.
Exactly.
Gotcha. Because I didn't know if somebody could just bust it out, and you just find that one guy who's just a freak and
Well, they're
doesn't need no
all
sleep.
at that
Yeah.
level. They're all freaks.
they're the best of the best
To an
yeah.
extent, yeah.
And it's funny because even we joke about like these endurance things, like the second place guy, it could come down to just like a millisecond or something, or just who wants to sprint fastest at the end when the finish line is set. Like they'll keep pace the entire race together. Basically, like you have to become best friends with the guy you're competing against. And then just at that last strip, like, all right, who's got more willpower to run faster than so and so to cross the finish line? Like, and it could be like just hours and hours and hours, dude. It blows my mind.
That's what I was talking to Joe about when I first kind of signed up for this. Is like racing these professionally would piss me the hell off, because for Ironman athletes, it's around an 8-hour race, sometimes a little under. But you can finish these races with the guy that's like in second place, just tailing you by like 15 yards, maybe.
Yeah. And then it's just like, at the last second, like who's going to turn it on? It just becomes totally like mental at that point. And I don't know. I just think it's funny. Like, you are competing against this person, but you're probably like forced to basically talk to them like the entire time, or like have interaction with them the whole time. So it's like, at what point is this like, I don't like you, and I'm trying to beat you, or like, we're cool. Like, I don't know. There's probably so many different things going through people's heads.
Well, I think, and I don't know what the rules are about like drafting and stuff like that, but like you can work together with somebody. If it's like, okay, you and I are out in front, everybody else is behind us by a lot. Let's work together, make it easier on each other. But then at a certain point, it's every man for himself.
That's what I'm saying. Like, when does that happen? Like, you're helping each other out. Like, I'm going to catch break. You're going to catch break. And, I just feel like that's an interesting dynamic. You don't really find that in many sports necessarily. Like, I know most of the guys, like even in strongman, like you're friendly with some of those guys, but when you go out and do your thing, like you're kind of in your own lane, or no one else is going at the same time. But with these endurance things, and they're that long, you can get pretty close with these people that you're riding or running with, swimming with, whatever. It's insane. But which out of the three is the hardest for you right now, Matt?
Out of the three, it's probably bike. So bike is one, you spend the longest amount of time on it, regardless of how fast you are. And two, it's like it's a combination of kind of muscle endurance more so than the lung endurance. Like for running, I'd say it's more so that kind of lung endurance and kind of mental strength. Biking is more so making sure your legs are hanging on. Like I'm never super out of breath on the bike or anything like that. It's more so keeping in check that my power's right with my legs. I'm not pushing too hard when I don't need to be. My heart rate's in the right zone. So it's a lot different than the other two. Swimming, everyone freaks out about, but I like swimming's kind of a joke part of the race. I'm not going to lie. Like,
really?
As long as you've been practicing, that portion should be over really, really quick. Like for me, who's not even a professional, I should be out of there in like an hour and a half. The pros are out of there in 40 minutes. So it's like such a short part of the race.
I love how an hour and a half of swimming in like an ocean.
Dude, we would die, dude.
We would not make it.
Yeah, I'm dead.
I was on a boat in Cambridge, Maryland for an hour and a half a couple weeks ago, and it was rough. So you're going to be swimming.
My ass would just sink right down. My legs, dude, like I would just right down to the bottom. I'd be hanging out with the sunnies, just sucking water and dying. But I find that interesting because like I would be worried the most about the swim.
I think everyone, like, it's what I kind of call is like it's prep for like all that race nervousness and anxiety. That's all the swim is just calming anxiety, getting that kind of initial adrenaline dump out. But in terms of like the actual physical effort for it, it's the easiest.
And then is it kind of an adjustment for you to get used to the duration of everything? Like, you're saying this thing's gonna be like 8 hours. You got an hour swim. Like, we strength train our sessions are probably like an hour and a half, 2 hours. But you're consistently moving for that long. So mentally, like, is that something you had to adjust to? Are there any tactics kind of that you had? Like, do you find yourself listening to music or something? Or are you just kind of like out there by yourself doing your thing?
It was a huge changeover in terms of how important nutrition is. So for lifters, we're not used to really having to eat in our training sessions unless it's going over like 2-3 hours, which usually doesn't happen for us unless it's like a crazy session. But for me, if I'm not eating every hour on the hour, there's going to be problems. And it was actually a big problem for me in the beginning of my training is like, why am I feeling so tired right now? Why am I feeling like almost exhausted? Like you get to a point where if you run out of your glycogen stores, you're telling your muscle to move and it's not moving for you, which is some of the most frustrating sessions that I had. But yesterday, which is why I was going super well before I hit the blowout, my nutrition was like so on point that over the course of this 85 miles, I felt the best that I ever had. And it was literally just because I never ran out of carbs because I was on point the entire time.
So you have an interesting history with nutrition, Matt, I would say. Like you kind of just eat Nature Valley bars, and you should be sponsored by Nature Valley sweet and salty bars. So for this, has it been, like you said, like a kind of more of like, okay, I really got to dial this in or else like physiologically, like I just am not going to make it?
I'd like to say that, but my diet is still Nature Valley bars and protein shakes. What I'm
What
using,
you're saying is you're that anomaly, man.
I'm a freak now. So what I'm using for like all of the actual training sessions, it's literally just pure sugar.
Yeah.
It's Gatorades, Body Armors, all that kind of stuff, gel packs, like anything that's like instant sugar. Some people like honey-based stuff. Everyone's got their different thing. It comes down to, it like boils straight down. It's all just sugars.
Yeah. And how's the strength training going in conjunction with this?
It's been good. Like you were kind of talking about, I have more flexibility than other people to kind of move stuff around, so I can kind of shift when my Ironman days are, when my strength training sessions are, that I'm getting like the maximal amount of distance between these. So the fatigue hasn't been that bad. I've had a few squat sessions like near a bike session where it's like, okay, I'm coming into this with fatigue. I don't try and think about that too much. I just give it the best effort that I have on that day. I think too many people freak out. They're like, I'm fatigued, the session's going to suck. I don't try and think about it. So it's been going really well. I say the main thing that's holding me back has been body weight. In the beginning of this, I kind of told Joe I creeped down to like 182 there for a while, and I'm back up to around 190. I haven't been able to breach that, but up towards 200 is more so where my like optimal strength is at. So holding 190 is like, it's been okay, but not like optimal.
And then do you find that this training has impacted your lifts and all, and just how you feel in general?
In general, it's made the strength sessions feel really good. When you're training for like 4 hours, a session of like 5 sets, 5 reps feels really easy to kind of breeze through. Even if it's like super high intensity, you're like, this is going to be over in like 30 minutes. I got this.
Yeah, I used to think that way with, I know you did cross country back in high school, but even like sports, when I was playing, it's like you're basically at school all day, and then you have practice till, say, you get done at like 2:30, and you're done at 5:30, 6 o'clock with practice. You come in for a strength session, and it's like sometimes on the hypertrophy days, it's like 60 minutes. When the strength training stuff, we're probably in here for like 2 hours, but like you always had to use that as a reference. I was like, dude, this is like nothing compared to being an athlete, like when you were just practicing all day long. So it's cool from a mental aspect too. Like you were talking about the mindset thing the other day for a YouTube video on like Goggins, how you're just pulling like stuff out of the cookie jar, right? Like you compare it to, man, I was training 4 or 6 hours a day. Like if I can do that, I can kind of do anything. So yeah, that's pretty sick. And when's that? September what?
September 18th.
Yeah. So you're going to kill it, dude. You've been putting in a lot of time, it's been cool to watch, and you put like stuff on YouTube for people to watch.
Yeah. Yep. So it's Matt Malloy on YouTube, and we always like to joke, not the flute player. I feel like I'm beating out the flute player recently. We're not sure.
Yeah, if you type in Matt Malloy and the coach Matt comes up first, we have officially made it. If the flute player is coming out, I think Steve's going to confirm. Steve,
I'm going to go on YouTube.
So I know my YouTube's biased, so I'll show up first. Just
yeah. See what happens when you
often.
type in Matt Malloy.
Malloy.
MO.
MOL. Yeah. What do we got?
We're looking for
he's
a guy
above,
with a stone.
He's
or
above
flute player.
He's above flute in my search.
Really?
But when I hit enter, the flute guy
comes up first.
Yeah.
Dang. All right, we still got work to be done, dude.
But do we know if he's paying for that? Like you can pay to prioritize where you show up.
I don't think he's paying for it.
Right.
I don't know. Flute. I don't see flute like being really ranked that high or putting ads to. So I think for the next month we're just going to use all Matt's video time for his channel so we can beat out the algorithm.
So there's like a picture you get flipping a tire in the middle of a couple flute solos. So you're breaching the perimeter.
You're starting to infringe on him
You
a little
breached
bit.
the perimeter.
You can have two further things apart from each other. Just a guy hitting a flute solo and then a dude flipping a tire. That's great. I love it. But yeah, guys, so make sure to follow him on YouTube and check out that channel. It's pretty unique in the sense that he's doing something as extreme as an Ironman for endurance. It's not just like, running a few miles here and there, and just getting more in shape, quote unquote. He's doing a freaking Ironman and he just signed up on a whim and documented that whole thing. And then he also is a strongman competitor. Like he said, he's sandwiching this Ironman between, two strongman competitions and is holding his strength really well. So it can be done. A lot of people say it can't. You have a question?
So I actually have a question. How much does the strength training or your base of strength training help with this versus hinder it? Like, do other triathletes train heavy? Like,
Yeah, so
how's that usually go in that
endurance
community?
athletes will train resistance training. It's usually like 2-3 times a week, but their stuff is so significantly different than what we'll do in here. So one, you'll see a lot higher reps, and then also like movement selection will be a lot different for, especially for like runners and stuff like that. You'll see a lot more emphasis on core training, hip training, a little bit of lower leg training. Upper body doesn't particularly matter so much. They'll still train it, but the training is like significantly different than what you'd see from like me or Joe training like strength sets or even hypertrophy sets.
What about when they sit on their butts and they have 2 dumbbells in each hand and they go like back and forth with their arms as
You
fast as
joke,
possible?
but we actually did that in high school.
No,
so-
that's where I saw it,
know.
dude. In high school, like we would have the football guys in the weight room, and we're doing like squat, bench, dead, some accessory movements, and the whole track team would be in there, and they'd be all sitting on their butts with like, I don't know, anywhere from like 1 to 5 pound dumbbells, and he would just be like, "Go!" And then they're just like swinging their arms as fast as possible with these weights, and I was just like, that's interesting. Like, what's going on over there? Yeah,
Sports specificity, Joe.
yeah, that is.
So do you still
finest.
do that?
No, not at all.
You've retired that movement?
There, if I was gonna do like serious running, there is like 2 or 3 routines, and they're actually from our high school coach that I'd steal from him, just because they were so good for like that kind of hip girdle area for running. But other than that, if I wasn't serious about it, no.
So does the strength platform that you have or your base, how does that put you in a strong position when you're going to go out and try to train for an Ironman like this? Like, how did that help you with the getting started on all these other 3, the running, biking, swimming?
Compared to like triathletes or anything like that.
Yeah.
I don't want to be like blunt, but the strength training is like almost useless for all this stuff. I'd say the leg strength was kind of helpful for biking. But at the same time, what I did notice is that my leg endurance wasn't there at the beginning. So like at the beginning, I was struggling to kind of keep my power up for an extended period of time. I have more power than I think most triathletes would have in my legs. But my ability to sustain that is definitely way weaker than theirs. So yeah, unfortunately, it's not like a super big help for triathlon.
So you've actually made it even harder for yourself.
Yeah, I mean, for what he's doing,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, I like. It's really good that he's maintaining his strength. I mean, have you hit any PRs?
I had 1 random squat set PR, and that's been the only.
Okay, but for the most part, like that's really good. Like he's, if anything, yeah, if he were to really try to push the strength training, it's going to hinder his performance for the Ironman.
Right.
But I think it's just cool that he's maintaining his strength. Like everyone's question is, did you lose your gains? Like,
Yeah,
right.
or, you know what I mean? So like he had said before, he was losing a good amount of weight, which is kind of what you want to worry about because some of that's going to, I mean, for him, it's going to be muscle,
Yeah.
But at the same time, like he said, if he's 4-hour bike ride, like he's got to work on the endurance of the leg muscle. And over time, that's just going to probably transition more to obviously favor the Ironman stuff. But it's just cool that he's doing both. Like literally this is them on the spectrum right now. And he's doing
Opposite
it.
ends. Yep.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah. So, but yeah, so we're going to switch gears a little bit. And we got Steve, who had some questions that he wanted to talk about, and I'm going to riff on them, and Matt will chime in here and there. And that's probably going to be basically the remainder of this podcast. But we're just trying to deliver, unique topics and kind of take you through Steve's journey, my expertise, Matt's expertise in this, and anyone who's listening, whether you're strength training, you're a business owner, or you just like listening to 3 dudes ramble on, I think you're going to find some value in the things we're about to talk about.
So the one thing that I noticed, and I touched on in the beginning, like the intro, about how just the vibe of this place you have here, it's really, really cool spot.
It's a cult.
It may be. I haven't been asked to do any initiation yet, but it's early.
Yet.
It's coming. Yeah. So I met Nick at one of the morning classes, and like everybody else here, he's super friendly. How you doing? After the workout was over, we're like catching our breaths, just getting to know each other a little bit. And he mentioned that he's been training with you for a really long time, like way back to your garage days. That people have seen those videos. Your whole message and what you and I talked about when I first started coming in here was, your goal is to help people become their best selves. And, what that looks like varies by person very, distinctly. So here's a guy who's been working out with you, what's that, 7-8 years?
Yeah, about 8 years.
Yeah, so you're bringing him a lot of value. He keeps coming back. What's a guy like that, to me, that's kind of like, you're kind of like checking that box a little bit, right? Like he's getting so much value out of what you're able to do for him, the training, all that kind of stuff. What's that do for you as a motivation factor? You're kind of seeing some proof or some results of what your ultimate goals are. How does that help you kind of feel confident to maybe take a little risk, or does it make you double down on what got you to this point? Like how does that help you when you see someone like that for such a long time? That's what you're looking for, right? So he's a good example of that. Tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, I think, well, first of all, it's really cool that Nick's been a part of the journey for that long. I mean, he started with me at a previous gym, and sort of a mutual friend that we both have. And, he was kind of looking for everything that we offered here, and that was kind of my niche market back in the day. And when I worked at this first gym, I was kind of doing everything. I was doing like boot camps. I was doing freaking like boxing in an aerobic studio classes. I was doing some Olympic lifting, some strength training, some stuff like CrossFit. Like I was doing everything, and I was getting my feet wet. But what I really kind of realized is I love strength training. I love doing barbell lifts, and I was watching a lot of Zach Evanesh, who is going to be on the podcast. We're going to go hang out with him, Matt and I, in the future. And he was just a huge like mentor and motivator to me. So when Nick had come on board, like I was putting him through all those workouts, and I loved it. He liked it because, there were some things in gyms kind of like what I was doing, but not much. And like I said, it was very like Zach Evanesh, underground strength coach kind of stuff where, we start off with like a main lift or a main movement, but then we'd also throw in a little bit of athleticism in there, some bodybuilding, some conditioning, which was like pushing, pulling sleds, using kegs, stuff like that was cool. And it was kind of like it was really underground, unseen. And it was kind of like weird because we're in this like nice place, but it was down and dirty. So it kind of had this, or like what we were training was down and dirty. So it's kind of this weird dichotomy of things going on. But I think it made you look the way that most guys wanted to look, and it made you feel the way that most people wanted to feel. And, that's kind of when I knew I was onto something. When people came to me, they're like, I want to look like I train, but I don't want to just do bodybuilding, so I kind of was like, okay, these guys want to look like badasses. They want to be athletic to some extent. And they also want to have, some sort of strength and conditioning involved. So that's kind of like the premise of putting that all together. And I started just attracting more and more people like that. But I think the main thing is just the culture, right? It comes down to the culture, and the type of atmosphere that we have here has always been unique. And I set the tone with the garage by doing that with we had basically nothing in that garage. There was kegs, some barbells, pull-up rack, dip rack, bands, chains, but very minimal equipment. But that's how I trained for like 3 years of my life in that garage, and I was kind of just proving a point, you don't need fancy. And I didn't want necessarily high maintenance fancy people. I wanted like that blue collar mindset, people that want to work hard and they want to put in the effort. And they also, want to embody kind of like we talked about the lion, right? The lion mentality, which isn't elite at all, but it's just, you want to put the work in, you want to treat people right. We want to surround ourselves with people who are going to push us, motivate us. So that's kind of where that culture had grown, and I've taken bits and pieces of that from being on teams and having great coaches. And I remember what were the messages that the coaches, bestowed down to us as the athletes, and I've trained at other gyms. And the cool thing about that was kind of taking, what did I like about that gym that I can include? What didn't I like? I discarded. So I spent a lot of my youth actually kind of bouncing around at different gyms or training at different gyms. And I had other trainers, and some of those trainers really impacted me with the things that they coached me. So that's always been something. So really the big thing for me is it's not about me. It's about what we're trying to create within that culture, and I do like that live, learn, pass on type of mindset and mentality, treating other people. We have our rules banner right over there on the gym. And, a lot of that has to do with more so qualities and characteristics and kind of our morals here. And like I said, the Lion's Den is way more about the quality than the quantity. So we're trying to just to really develop an awesome kick-ass culture. And, Matt and I always know when people come in here if they're going to stay or if they're going to leave, just based on the kind of, morals and values that they have, or just the kind of work ethic. Like when you come in here, that is the thing, is we hold you to a standard in the best way possible. And those are the kind of people we attract, and we do that through the content we put out, through the workouts that we run. So you kind of know what you're getting yourself into when you get here. But I think, the main thing is building that culture. And I think that's what a lot of gyms need to emphasize. And that really helps build your brand, is establishing that culture, and just, not trying to please everybody. We definitely don't do that here. Like, we are who we are, and that's how we set ourselves apart. But yeah, motivates the heck out of me. Like, when I just had a guy yesterday who was in here, Kevin, and he started with me as an online client when I first opened the Lion's Den. So he lives in Media, which is about an hour away from here. And he's been with me ever since. I've been programming with him for 4 years for all his strongman competitions, his nutrition, and he periodically always stops in. He's donated equipment here to the gym, which means a lot. But I took a picture with him yesterday because I just thought that was so cool. I was like, dude, you've been a supporter of this place for the last 4 years. He's constantly shown up, and has given back to the gym so much. And obviously he has his side where he just appreciates what we do. But yeah, when you have a guy who's been with you that long, he's had a huge transformation. You can tell his life has changed. Like, that's what motivates me. But I know it's long-winded, but I think the whole core of it has just been the culture of what we've created.
Yeah. Have you ever been wrong? Have you guys ever looked at each other and said, "Oh, this person's not going to last," but now they're a couple years in? Or are you usually pretty accurate with your assessment?
I don't know, man. What do you
There's
think?
like certain energies where like we're both like agree, like we'll both meet the person at separate times and then eventually both look at each other like, you getting the same vibes? Like, yeah, I'm getting the same vibes. And those were almost like 100% right on. But I always hate like the first impressions thing, because I feel like first impressions are almost always like dead wrong. And like, I know why they're so important, but almost every single person I've met in this gym, that first impression has been like completely different from what their personality ended up being. So I always give people, a few weeks before I'm like making like that final judgment call.
Yeah, I think I'm pretty intuitive with reading people. I think I always have been. Not necessarily if they'll stay or not, but just like I can usually pick up like the person's background story somehow just by looking at them, talking to them. I've been around a lot of people, and I'm very fascinated by that kind of stuff. So for me, I've been pretty accurate for the most part. I will say one thing, like kind of like Matt had said, if they're a member here, I do know that I've had relationships that have changed. Like sometimes in the beginning, I'm like, I don't know what I think about this person, but then we've gotten a lot closer in that aspect. But I usually can tell right away if they're a fit for here or not, and we're pretty accurate with that, I would say.
Yeah, and so that's important. And that's why people come back. Like someone like me who's not I don't have a specific athletic event that I'm training for right now or anything like that, but sometimes it's hard to get up and go to the gym. And if it's a welcoming place, you've got some friends there, no matter how bad you're feeling, nobody's gonna bust your chops. You're gonna get your work in. It makes it a lot easier to come in, especially early in the mornings.
Yeah, definitely. I think one of the main things too is, you create relationships, and then it's more, I don't want to say like a social gathering, but it is. You're going to the gym with the motivation of you get to see Nick, you get to catch up with Nick, or the accountability of like, okay, I know Nick's going to be there, so I don't want to let Nick down. Right. It's kind of in the back of your mind. But at the same time, I think we do a good job where it's like when you show up here, we don't I would say, I think we've worked on this over time, where it's taken me some time to realize like not everybody here has the same goals or same mentality that I may have, and the intensity wise. So I've just become really grateful that people just show up, and it's like, maybe I know somebody can push harder, but at the same time, it's like, what, they're here, right? They could be at home sitting on the couch watching TV, but they chose not to. They chose to show up. And I literally will like take that moment to repeat that in my head and just be like, I'm grateful that they are here and I'm part of our culture. Like, that's just kind of a mantra that I keep rephrasing in my head. Because if I did run, I joke about this, but it's true. If I did run it how I did in the garage with those kind of people, it'd be a very small gym. Like, I wouldn't have many members, because that was like very intense. That was a little bit too much intensity. And I had to realize like, okay, if I want to run a business, like I need clients, and yeah, that may be a cool side gig that I was doing, but if I wanted to make a living and really try to help change and impact as many people's lives, I have to broaden my viewpoints to do that essentially. So yeah, like I said, the culture is where it's at. and for any business owners listening to this, really put time and effort into the culture and the message and the audience that you're talking to. Really know that, because if you don't know that, you're going to come off confusing to the people you're trying to serve, and it's going to. And once you are confusing them, you're going to lose them. Another quick ad from our sponsor, HD Muscle. All right, so HD Muscle, as you know, is a supplement company that sponsors me, and I've always been a big fan of supplements ever since I started my lifting journey. With that being said, I take what I put into my body very seriously, and that's where HD Muscle comes in. HD doesn't take any shortcuts on their formulas, testing, and research to produce top-of-the-line supplements for the best athletes in the world, and specifically bodybuilders. Okay, so these guys that are taking HD supplements that are sponsored also by the company are in the Olympia. The best of the best bodybuilders in the world are competing using HD supplements, and they do that because they need to put the top quality things into their body to look the best, perform the best, and that is why I also use them. So their supplements are third-party tested. There's no artificial coloring or dyes or proprietary blends. The other thing that's pretty cool is their whey protein has a patented digestive enzyme inside of it. So if you suffer from IBS or any sort of digestive problems, I have found that HD Muscle whey protein has by far been the most superior protein I've ever used for myself, and also the athletes that I coach. I really recommend they use that, and they've had tremendous results. So that's just another little added perk. You guys can check them out on hdmuscle.com and see what you think for yourself. I myself am a huge user of their protein, the creatine, pre-workout. My favorite flavor so far, the pre-workout, is the peach rings or the sour gummy. So if you like any of those flavors, check them out. However, they offer a ton more. They have a whole health line where it has kidney, liver, multivitamins, and a bunch of other products. So go check out the website, hdmuscle.com. Use code ZATSTRENGTH at checkout to save you money, and also just taking your training and health to the next level.
Okay, yeah, next question. So we were talking that how we're not alike at all physically. You're sculpted and I'm not there at all. Yet, exactly. It's a long journey. But the situation we're in right now is similar. I'm coming back off of a long hiatus of not having done a lot of exercising. You're working through your bicep injury and rehabbing from that, and you're limited in some of the things that you can normally do. What kind of advice could you give to folks, or what's worked for you to kind of like temper your mindset and think, all right, cool, I got my my steri strips off, my arm looks like it's okay, I can go back to full bore what I was doing, versus I got to be smart about this, I got to take my time, I got to plan around it. What's that been like for you? And for anybody that's dealing with an injury, or maybe they're coming off of a long hiatus where they think, oh, this is going to be terrible. What kind of tips can you offer for how to frame your mind so that you can do what you need to do, but not overexert or re-injure yourself?
Yeah, for sure. I think the first thing I want to say is I'm a super optimistic person. I always try to look at the glasses, full versus empty, etc. But I don't want to downplay the fact that this thing sucks, right? Like, I'm not trying to make it seem like almost too fake in the sense of how optimistic I am. Like, when it happened, right away, I'm like, oh crap. Like, I had 2 big competitions that I'm not going to be able to do. Like, I was trying to be one of the top 105 guys in the world, and like my goal is to literally podium. So there's a lot of things that go into that. And, when you realize that you can't do that, like, that sucks. Like, I was upset. Like, I was definitely down. It definitely changed my plan for a lot of things, so I don't want to make it seem like, yeah, everything's great all the time, guys, from a bicep, I care less, let's move on. Like, that's not the case. However, I have to realize, what's the attitude going to do for me, right? Like, I realize the next thing I have to do is I have to focus on what I can control and what I can do. So yeah, with the bicep, that was the next thing, is like, okay, what is the best thing I can do in the situation that I'm in right now? And I focused on that. So for me, literally after the bicep tear was, okay, I need to go figure out what's the damage, obviously. But after that, it was, all right, well, I can't train upper body, but I can train legs. So we're going to train legs tomorrow. And, if people see me doing that, it's especially as someone who has a following, like, Matt and I are really trying to push, and all the coaches here, a different narrative with a lot of strength training principles or misconceptions. And unfortunately, there's still people out there who think when I get injured, I shouldn't do anything. So for me, having an influence of, whatever thousands of people that follow me, it's like I want them to see through my actions, and then hopefully it's more about like, can I change what they'll do in the future type of deal. So for me, yeah, it's like I just focus on what I can do. I don't look too far down the line. And it's just always, what's the next best step, right? You're talking about how you, in your mind, you're thinking about what you used to be able to do. Well, guess what? You're not that guy. Right now, you're Steve who you are right now. So what can Steve do with the cards that you have in your hand? What's the next best move? So for you, that's simply just driving to the gym.
Right.
Okay. And that's what you have to focus on. It's just the baby steps. For me, it's, instead of, sitting there feeling sorry for myself, eating my Ben & Jerry's that I purchased last night, it's going to be do a lower body workout, because that's what I can do. Matt, do you have anything to add?
Not off the top of my head.
So 2 quick questions. What's your go-to Ben & Jerry's flavor? Do you rotate or do you have a staple?
Man,
so what'd you get last night?
All right, well, I mean, I'm actually going to be very vulnerable, and I'm going to tell you everything that I did last night, because it wasn't just
this
one.
Is a safe space.
Thank you for making me feel comfortable in my own gym. I appreciate you. So after dinner, I was feeling a little hungry, and I wanted some delicious Ben & Jerry's because someone had brought it up at the dinner table. So I went to the local Giant, wandered the aisles a little bit. And the first thing I actually got is, so when you look in the ice cream aisle, there was all these different ice creams and tons of them. But then there was these I've never seen, it was a baby Ben & Jerry's.
Yeah,
like,
the little ones.
Yeah, like this big.
It's almost like a shot glass.
Exactly. It was a shot glass.
Yeah.
I saw it. And it was by its lonesome. There was no other ones around him, just sitting there. Like, I almost actually think I didn't see where the rest of them were stored, and someone just kind of had the last minute decision and just said, like, I want this. And they're like, nah, fuck it. And they just put it back, like,
It was like a parent, you can't get that. And the kid's like, damn.
Exactly. Yeah. So I was that guy who restored the love to it. I rescued. Yeah. It was a fudge brownie one. It was like all
nice.
So after that, I proceeded to walk down to the actual Ben & Jerry's section, and I have a bunch. I'm not going to lie. As much as I love all strength training, I love all ice cream. So I got, what was it? It was a new one. Actually, crap, now I can't even think of it. It was one I haven't had before. But the other one go-to is the Tonight Dough, the Jimmy Fallon. With Jimmy Fallon on it. I always get that one. I get fish food a lot. I can't remember the name of this one because it was so new. There was like Chubby Hubby. That was one I kept eyeing up. So I bought 2 Ben & Jerry's. One was the classic Tonight Dough, and then the other one was this new one. And then I got the baby.
The mini.
Yeah, the mini guy. And that's not where it ends. So as I was walking back, kind of like that kid, whoever left it there, instead of leaving something, I saw something more that caught my eye. And I was really craving an ice cream sandwich. And then there's all different, there's like Klondike bars, there's the Chipwiches, and then I saw a Chipwich that had M&Ms instead of chocolate
chips. Yeah,
chocolate chips. So I grabbed a box of those.
Wow.
Yeah, it was solid. It was
Joe's
solid.
coming out of this cut life strong.
Yeah. In my mind, I justified that I think I have a month to do whatever I want because I put in like over 20 weeks of cutting. I honestly, in all honesty, I only had one Chipwich last night though.
Okay.
But in the back of my mind, I know what's in the freezer.
You know it's there,
which gets me pretty hype. What
Right.
about you guys? Are you guys Ben & Jerry's fans?
So I've got 3 daughters, and they were just introduced to Ben & Jerry's earlier this summer. They're big dairy. We live near a Dairy Queen, so that's usually their go-to.
Really?
Or if we're at like a Merry Meat or a place like that, they'll branch out to different flavors. But then my wife and I were talking about Ben & Jerry's, like, who are they? And we're like, oh, it's just like ice cream. They have all these different flavors. It's like, seriously? So like we took them and they could like look and see. They could each pick a pint, and now they're like rotating through the flavors. So we went from having no Ben & Jerry's in our house for probably multiple years to every time they leave the house, they're like, let's try another one, or ooh, I want to get this one again. So that's been.
It's
been
funny
tough.
because like right next to the Ben & Jerry's is a whole tub of whatever ice cream you want, and it's like $5. And you literally would probably get like 3 or 4 servings of Ben & Jerry's in one tub, and you're paying the same price. But that just shows you, man, they are doing a great job with that premium ice cream market. And like you said, I would have got my Tonight Dough, but this new one caught my eye, and I had to get it. There's almost $11, and 4,000 calories right there.
For the FODMAP crowd. They do a dairy free now.
Yeah, they have like everything
They
now.
have a couple different versions.
And I even love it just as gluten free, like
Yeah.
across like everything. It's like there's gluten free water, guys. I don't know if you knew about that.
So you're nodding knowingly over here, Matt. Tell us your Ben and Jerry's situation.
I don't know. Like, I'm not like super religious on this. I feel like I get ousted in these conversations. The
not a
fudge
sweet
brownie was
guy,
funnily
right?
enough not super sweet guy now. Ice cream's like one of those things. It's ice cream and cookies are like the two
Yeah.
like big things for sweets. The fudge brownie was one, and then I'm forgetting the name. What's like the 420 inspired one? The like stoner name.
The half baked.
Yeah, half baked.
Oh,
is the
that's
best.
what I got.
Yeah,
I got
yeah,
no,
yeah,
but
okay.
dude, you're amazing. I literally got it was like even more half baked.
Okay, I've not had that.
Yeah, so that's the one I got.
Yeah, okay.
Because I normally half baked is a go-to, but it's like even more half baked. Yeah. So that's the one, dude. It's all it is just batter, like infested ice cream of just any fudge brownie, chocolate, all the good stuff, dude. But yeah, it was kind of funny you say that because with your family, I was that way with Yum Yum Donuts. So I really I would get donuts every now and then growing up as a kid, like not a lot though. Like it wasn't something I was ever known for or even in my family. But then when I got that first gym location in Lansdale, it's right down the street from the Yum Yum Donuts right around the corner here. And if you guys have ever come to the den or been a guest, typically I always show up with a box of Yum Yum Donuts to greet the guests with and stuff like that. But that was a slippery slope. That went from like never having donuts in my life to then being known. Like when guests would visit me, they would just show up with a box of Yum Yum Donuts and be like, yeah, like we knew you love donuts. I was like, oh God, I've become known for this. Like this is no bueno.
Do you know they make a giant birthday cake sized donut there?
Come on, dude.
All right, just making sure.
I've had that multiple times.
Okay. All right, cool. Just making sure. For those that don't know, it's like the size of a car tire donut. It's amazing.
And there's only I think 3 or 4 locations, and it all started right around here. So it's definitely an area thing. But if you're looking for something comparable, and you're in, I don't know if that's a chain, but Hello Donuts is really good. That's another top favorite of mine. And if you want more of a what would they could be called, like an old fashioned kind of donut, like a cinnamon whatever, there's like the duck donuts. They're really good too. And what's the one in King of Prussia? Do you know what I'm talking about? Is there a donut place in King of Prussia?
Susie Joe is
I
kind
haven't
of
had
down
that,
that
but they're
way.
good.
Yeah, they're really good. I want to say they're kind of towards King of Prussia. They're on the level of a Yum Yum.
Okay.
But like it's like
there's different styles. So you have to figure out like what style do you like, and then in that style, like who are the best that make that style donut.
Exactly.
But what was did we even answer the question?
Yeah, I think the question was about mindset, and you quickly put us at ease with talk of donuts and ice cream.
My mind's feeling great right now.
Right. So how much Ben and Jerry's can you lift with a torn bicep?
A lot. I'm going to be able to
Doing
lift a lot
one
more
pint
when I'm
curls?
back to 300 pounds. Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, I think we were just kind of talking about like
coming back with a different.
Coming back.
Yeah.
How do you temper your excitement with, okay, I got this sling off, I got the brace off, I'm ready to go. How do you like, I was walking my dog earlier and I had to like pull back on the leash a lot because she just wants to go. So how do you pull back on yourself and not overdo it?
Yeah, well, I think for me it's simple as like I don't want to tear my bicep again, so I just have to slowly know it's going to take time. It's going to be a process, and it's like, what's the risk versus the reward ratio? Okay. The risk is I get a little bit of a dopamine hit because I get to lift some weight, or the reward would be that. The risk is you could be back in the hospital and set yourself back way further. And it's like I was talking to Dave Tate, and I actually like that he had this take because everybody thinks Dave Tate like hardcore MFer, like, which he is, but at the same time, when I was talking about my bicep injury, he's like, we were talking about how everybody wants to get back so quick from injury, and he's like, well, for what? And you're like, yeah, like for what? Like, I don't know. And it's like, exactly. Like if it takes 6 months, but you could get back in 4, like, is the risk to get back in 4 really worth it? Versus those 2 months where we just have a perfectly fine recovery. He's like, I understand that if you want to be like, you're competing in the Olympia for bodybuilding or world's strongest man. Okay. Yeah. Like there's definitely more pressure there. But for me, it's like, I'm not in any rush to really get back. thankfully it's healing very fast, which is great. And I think that's kind of the narrative we push is like the worst thing we can do. You know, like they told me I'd be in 90 degrees in a sling till October. Wow. I was outside at 90 degrees and they put a soft cast on me. So I'm sitting there like, this doesn't make any sense. And if there's no pain, I'm going to try to do it. I'm going to play with those ranges of motion. Yeah. The other day, I think I pushed a little too far during our workout. I said that to Matt. I was like, okay, I think I overdid it a little bit. So I'm going to scale it back. But when we look at, okay, we have person 1 who's not doing anything. We have person 2 who's training to the best of their ability, you know, working blood and muscles around the area. I'm way more in favor of that case. And the research kind of pushes to be more in favor of that. So, you know, when we have athletes here, or Matt, you can just tell them. So say we have someone here at the DEM, right? Okay, Steve will use an example, right? You got shoulder problems or whatever. So what would we do? How would we handle that situation?
Yeah. So it's me and Joey are like clockwork on this anymore because it happens so often. Is anytime we have that kind of instance of pain, first thing we're gonna do is like, say you wanted to do overhead press, we're gonna see if we can deload the bar down to a point where that doesn't happen anymore. So if we take you all the way down to like the bare bar or even like a pair of dumbbells, like 8-pound dumbbells, and just moving through that range of motion still hurts, even though we've taken all the load off of it, then we're gonna look to decrease the range of motion in that. So we possibly set you up with pins where we'll cut you off halfway through that press, and hopefully that can cut you off right before you hit that instance of pain. We'll take you through as far of the range of motion as we can to where you don't feel pain, and usually that one ends up being the one that works. If you deload the bar and if you reduce the range of motion on a movement and the person's still feeling pain, that's when you can find like a completely new variation for them. So I'll give like an extreme example. Say you have like low back pain in a deadlift. That's when you could try something completely different, like switching them to a sumo deadlift, which has a much more upright torso angle. So there's kind of just a progression of movements that we'll go through to eventually get you to a point where you can do a movement that's either the same movement with less load or a similar movement that's hitting kind of the similar muscle groups, but doesn't put you through that pain. And then once we find that, we'll slowly build that up. We'll move back up the chain. So if we get you with a weird variation, we'll slowly build that up, hopefully get you to a shortened range of motion movement, build that up, and then get you back to the real movement, and then reload the bar on that. And that almost always works. But what Joey was saying, and this happens all the time, I've seen it with a few guys in our class with like back tweaks and stuff like that, is they'll get themselves back to that normal movement. They'll get a little too eager. They'll try and rush their recovery, rush their numbers back to it, and they'll re-injure it again. And now they're back at the bottom of the barrel, and they got to restart that. And after someone does that one time, that's when you'll see the patience kind of set in. So Joey's kind of saving self with his bicep that he knows if he's going to reset that, how frustrating that would be. So that's a big thing you'll see all the time.
Yeah, and then like just brings back, so ask yourself like, for what? Right? Like you just put in all that work to recover from a tweak or an injury, and you start to get back to the movement that you were not able to do before. Just say to yourself, like, for what? Like, what is the point of me getting too excited, putting too much weight on the bar? Like you're going to be much better off just taking the same amount of patience, slowly build that lift back up, and confidence as well in yourself to be able to execute that movement, and you'll be good. And I do want to add one more thing about the pain thing that we're talking about it, and this is just a whole other podcast, but what you notice here as coaches is we do not make it into a catastrophe when you get hurt. We do not like sit there with open wide eyes and be like, oh my gosh, like, are you okay? Like, and when it happens, we stay completely calm, because I don't want anybody else to see like me overreacting to a situation. I don't want you to look at me as a coach who you look up to and you're looking for help overreact, because then it's going to get you paranoid or make it worse. So we take pain and pain management very seriously here. But even the other day, I think we were doing something about our shoulder. So it was like push-ups or something like that. So I was like, okay, well, why don't we try push-ups on an incline bench? So it's the same movement, but we're just changing the plane in which we're doing it to see if it gives you any relief. But at the same time, you still did the whole workout. You still were training. That's fantastic. Right. And it'd be interesting to see long-term, how you feel with these things. Cause I've had clients here who just talk about when they were lifting back in the day, all the aches and pains it caused them. And then as they kind of came here and they saw how we were doing things and gave them these pointers, that a lot of that stuff tended to go away over time. And I think keeping lifting in your routine is one of the best things you can do. And hence why I feel like my recovery has been so fast with my bicep, is because I train my whole life, and, pre-injury, and then even after the injury, before I had the surgery, I still was training around at the best of my ability. And then right now I'm doing whatever I can. So I think it's just kind of the proof is in the pudding with what we're talking about.
Yeah, you get to practice what you've been preaching yourself now, and seeing how it goes. Yeah,
and it's just interesting because it's not, we think we're doing the best work we can, but for example, put a video up on TikTok of me deadlifting. It was my 80s deadlift where I'm screaming David Hasselhoff, and the amount of comments were just, this dude's going to break his back, blah, blah, blah. Like, it's a dumpster. TikTok is a dumpster fire.
TikTok is a bad place for fitness. I should have warned you about that. It's terrible.
But you know what it did? Like, I think I responded to one guy. And I just said, if done correctly, they're great for your back. That's all I said. But the amount of comments that just kept coming, I was like, I cannot devote this energy to this right now. But in my head, it was like, this is going to motivate me to just keep putting out the content we are, because there's so many people here that still don't understand it.
Right.
You know what I mean? So it's like our job is not done.
I saw a meme online yesterday, and it was a picture. Remember the show The Golden Girls?
I've heard of it, but I never partake in it.
So there's these older ladies that all kind of live together. One's a widow, one's divorced, the other lady's mom. So they're all a little bit older, and it's a very funny show. And so there's a picture of them sitting around the table. And these women are in their 60s and 70s, and the one lady's in her 80s. And the meme said, 30-year-olds talking about TikTok. And it's like, there's that the younger generation is obsessed with it. There are 12-year-olds who become millionaires because of TikTok, because of their reach. The fact that you got that many comments is actually noteworthy, because that means a lot of people saw it. So interesting.
I've had some videos do really well on there, but which is good because it's growing the visibility and the brand. I understand that, but I've just realized in my mind how many people don't understand. Like there's still the stigma that deadlifts are bad for you. Like that's not the case, or when you get injured, just don't do anything. Like, these are the narratives we're trying to change. So for me, it was just like eye-opening. And at first you're like pissed off because you're just like, well, first, I'm on TikTok. Like, what the hell is going on? But after that, it's like, okay, we have to just keep trying to believe in what we're doing here, because, if we can change the narrative to people, like, then we're winning that battle of, like, we want people to be deadlifting, right? Like, we want people to not be afraid of barbells and gyms and lifting and all that kind of stuff. And when people get injured, like, we want them to train through and around the injury, not just sit at home and not do anything.
Yeah. And I saw that you mentioned you're kind of back on Twitter. Twitter's equally evil. Yeah.
I'm going to be completely honest, dude. If anyone had saw my previous Twitter and tweets, I definitely in 2021 would have been canceled. So I'm glad that I got rid of that and restarted the account. And now it's just straight up just fitness, funny stuff, a little bit of educational things on there. But it's doing well because from a content creation standpoint, which I'm going to have some other guests talk about this, because it just works so well when you create a tweet and I put it on my Instagram. The shareability of tweets is what the gold is there. I mean, I guess anything, but for me, it's been, for this time, I've had trouble growing my Instagram. And it really, what I think it was, I just wasn't putting up tons of, I don't know, like booty thirsty posts of like me with my shirt off, flexing and like saying just really dumb stuff. Cause like, that's just not my morals and, my values. But the tweets, I feel like, is a way for me to put out that kind of content that starts growing the Instagram a lot. So it's been growing, which has been fantastic through the tweets.
Yeah, it's Twitter can be a pretty evil place. So.
Dude, you got this bug. I know you're trying to hold back from freaking out, but there's this gnat that is trying to eat you.
What I'm
alive.
really trying to, so my instinct is to blow it away from me with air, but I'm in front of a microphone and I don't want to make that like.
So you just look outrageous right now to us. No one can see this, but you're just like,
I'm swatting at a microscopic
you're
gnat.
Like, Mr. Miyagiing this whole thing.
It was on my nose. It was on the microphone. It was on my eyelid.
You're like trying not to laugh, kind of, because you're just like, dude, I want to kill this thing.
All I want to do is give it a big puff of air, but not make the noise in the mic. Ooh, I got it. I got him. Sorry, Nat. Sorry, Nat.
I know, dude.
I gave you a chance. I gave him 15 tries to get away, and he did not. Sorry to all the Nat fans out there.
He deserved his death.
Bummer. So I just have one more question. And we touched on this a little bit before. I'm getting back in, not to beat a dead horse, back in from kind of ground zero here. I felt surprisingly good after my first 2 days training here. I got home. I had different just different levels of energy. Obviously, I haven't made any major gains or improvements in my actual fitness yet, but just the fact of getting here, moving myself around, moving some weight around, getting over the anxiety of coming in here in the first place, meeting some nice folks like Nick, meeting Mr. Zeke. I felt so just good. And you mentioned a dopamine rush earlier about one of your stories about working out. How
It's actually about ice cream, but
well, that too. There are many sources.
Dopamine
of the
comes in
dopamine.
many ways.
Yeah, sometimes it's dripping in chocolate. Yeah. So I'd missed that feeling. Talk a little bit about like how important that is for you, and does that? I just felt like a better person those couple of days, and just I had more energy. My mood was totally different. How important do you think that is for folks, and how important has it been for you?
Yeah, Matt, you can take this one, and then I'll go.
Yeah,
because you're
I think,
doing insane levels of activity.
I'll completely backtrack that. I don't think it matters how much physical activity you're doing. It's massive in terms of quality of life improvements.
Right.
So much to the point that I love strength training. I'm doing the endurance stuff right now, but you'll see in all the articles, whenever I talk about getting physical activity into your life, I literally say to people, do whatever it is that you're going to do. Just because it is so massive in terms of mood improvements, helping mitigate some symptoms of anxiety and depression, all of this kind of stuff. And it's simple as getting in 10 minutes of physical activity a day. So literally 10 minutes of walking, 10 minutes of yoga, lifting weights, whatever you want to do. The amount that can improve your life just with that little bit of physical activity every day is massive. So I'm always a huge proponent of, I don't care what you're doing, just get up and do something.
Do something.
Yeah, for me, man, it's just like therapy, dude. I'm addicted to training, and I get those neurotransmitters firing like dopamine. It makes me feel good, and honestly, it I don't want to get too deep. You guys listen to my other podcasts where I talk about anxiety, depression, but fitness changed my life. Being able to have the gym is an outlet for me with stress and things I was dealing with, and still deal with to this day. Nothing beats that feeling of after you're done, training or doing anything physical, right? No one's ever regretted a workout. Granted, tore my bicep. I didn't regret that workout at all. I had a great time. I was with great people. I felt great, all the way up to that point. And even after, those endorphins you get and just everything that comes out of it, there's just so many positives and benefits. And really, it's medicine, man. You're investing in yourself and your health, and the cost of a gym, honestly, is so minimal on the benefits that are outweighing the cost, especially down the road, right? Do you want to be paying all these insane medical bills for stuff that you could have prevented just by,
right,
going to, you don't even need the gym, right? Just by, like Matt said, going for a couple walks a day. That's our bare minimal, right? You were talking about earlier, just focusing on what can I do. The majority of people probably listening to this podcast will benefit largely by going for a 10-minute walk every single day. There you go. Start there. Okay, maybe you're getting into the gym and you're doing some walks. Okay, well, maybe just do something for 30 minutes. That's the thing, is that's what we're trying to talk. We're trying to reevaluate the audience we're talking to, and there's so many beginners out there who don't know where to start. Yeah, 10-minute walk a day or after a meal, awesome. Go to the gym, find something you like to do, or if there's classes there, hop into a class. And if it's making you feel good and you're getting your heart rate up and you're doing something, that's challenging you a little bit in some physical way, you're on a great place to start. So for me, yeah, it's been the mental and physical benefits that I've gotten, and it's awesome to see that in other people too, right? The confidence change people get when they start to notice the physical differences, or mental too. Like we talked about in the last podcast, if this is the hardest part of your day, it makes everything outside of your day just seem so much easier. And you're like, okay, well, if I can get through that, I can get through this meeting I have at 2:00, with my boss. And when you're in this journey, you realize that it becomes about consistently pushing yourself a little bit more and more, because if you want to get the results, you start to develop a tolerance to what you're doing. So you have to up the ante a little bit, and it's progressively dosed the way that, smallly, so you're not going to do anything extreme, But you can look back, and often that's one of the best things people do. Look back at where you started, man. Like you're feeling down about yourself, or you're feeling negative. Like at the end of the day, look how far you come. And also, I think we all can agree, like we live in, despite everything going on in the world right now, we on a Sunday can come in here and record a podcast and talk about fitness. We're pretty blessed to be able to do that, right? So just like having the opportunity to train, like especially now more than ever when we see things going on in the world, like, I think everybody takes their health and fitness for granted. And, so there's just so many benefits, so many amazing things about it. And that's why we're so passionate about what we do. And, I think everybody thinks like, we're hardcore with strength training, and yeah, we are, but we're just happy when people are active. Like if I talk to someone in a conversation, I'm like, oh, what do you do? And the signs are like, well, it's like, that's awesome. Like good for you. You know what I mean? Like that's super great. And that's why it's cool. I think what Matt's doing with the endurance stuff is like, yeah, we're definitely stereotyped as a strength training gym, which we are, but Coach Matt's running an Ironman. So you can't say anything now, guys. We got an Ironman athlete here, We have a crew coach, right? Coach Tanya. She's up. Man, if you follow Coach Tanya on Instagram, you get your 5 a.m., 6 miles in every day motivation. So you're just like, yeah, she's a beast in lifts, but she's out there running. So we're a home for everybody. We have a kid who's like a CrossFitter now. He was like a powerlifter. Now he's doing CrossFit workouts in the gym, and that's super cool to me.
He's training longer than me and Joe are.
Yeah. He puts the hours. I mean, we had a talk the other day. Like this is why I think we're cool. Is I literally told a kid at my gym, I was like, this probably isn't the gym for you, dude. Like in the nicest way. I was just like, you need to, if you want to be a CrossFitter, like what are your goals? Like you probably need to go whatever. So he's looking at a CrossFit gym, which is, I'm happy for him, because I'm like, if this is what you want to do, dude, like this is where you got to be. But like most gyms are like, no, dude, we have to keep this kid here forever. Like we need his whatever monthly dues, and he can't go anywhere else. Like we can't talk about other gyms. It's like, no, dude, like, yeah, message so-and-so, like tell him you know me, go train there and be a freaking beast. And that's going to make me happier if I'm like known as like, yeah, dude, I trained at Joey's gym and he was super cool, told me to go to CrossFit, whatever. And now I'm at the CrossFit Games. Like, remember me.
Right.
You know what I mean? But yeah, fitness is amazing.
Yeah, I think it seems like common sense. I think the reason for me asking the question and asking you guys to talk about it was just, everybody kind of knows that in the back of their head. It was really cool for me to experience it this week and kind of remember that feeling and remember that it's not just, a motto on a shirt or a bumper sticker or in somebody's book. Like it did make a difference. I felt so much better. And, the fact that I didn't overdo it, made me eager to come back. And for me, that's what I need to be doing right now. So I'm glad we had a chance to talk about it, because again, it seems like common sense, but it was still cool to kind of experience it again.
Yeah, dude, absolutely. And I think for you, you're going to feel all the mental parts of it first, and you're going to kind of get the mood boost, like all those like little effects, which are always going to be there. And then the hardest part with people is they don't put in enough time to get the physical changes. So for you, it's like, once you start to get those physical changes too, like we talked about before, like action oversees motivation, is then it's like you're going to get this motivation of like, holy crap, I'm starting to look different, and your confidence starts blowing up, and then it becomes so ingrained into your habit at that point that like you can't stop, and then that becomes the drug. And it's like, yeah, I say I'm addicted, but I'm like, there are way worse things I can be addicted to in life. So it's like being addicted to fitness and my well-being, I think is a benefit. And I hope everyone here gets addicted to just bettering themselves and seeing those results. So for you, I'm excited, man. Like once you start to, the scale starts changing, like your body starts changing, and you're already 2 days in and, you feel this way. Like imagine what happens when you're 2 months in.
I know.
Like it's going to be crazy, dude. So,
yeah.
So I'm excited for you. And that's what's cool about keeping it on the podcast, is you'll be able to talk more and more about these little breakthrough things and, the ups and the downs that you go through. And you also have people here who've been through it all, right? Like, I think I joke, but I told Matt, like, there'll be a point where you're just like not going to like training. And he looked at me like, dude, you're crazy. Like, I'll never not like training. I don't know if that has happened yet, but I'm just saying, like, there'll be a point where it does. You're going to get through it, and we can help you get through it because we've been there. And then, being on the other side of it, you have this like, this weird like rebound where you're like, I love training,
Right.
So it's weird how it happens, and it's so cyclical, just like life, dude. It's all, you're not going to know the good unless you know the bad, right?
Right.
We're not going to appreciate summer until we go through really horrible winters. But it's never going to change the fact that we're going to have summers and winters unless we got global warming, right? And that's
a whole other podcast.
That is a whole other podcast, right? Where we have a machine that controls climate. That I've heard, that there's a machine that controls our weather. It's a weather machine. It was actually in the video game Red Alert that you could actually create a weather machine. That's super nerdy, and I wanted to throw that out there. But they were already talking about that when Red Alert came out. So these conspiracy theories have been around for a long time.
We'll have to dig into that.
Yeah, so I'm going to probably just end it right there. But yeah, that was a solid podcast, guys. And hopefully you've been really enjoying these podcasts. We have Steve, so thanks for coming on. We got Coach Matt. Make sure you guys are following Coach Matt on his YouTube channel, his Instagram. We got Steve, who's on the gram, but I don't know, maybe you'll follow him too. Do you want to be followed?
Sure. I have to unprivate myself, but yeah.
Privatized?
I was privatized. There was too many Russian bots.
Yeah.
I can get you every time.
It's another podcast right
Russian
there.
bot girls you're like falling for.
Svetlana with like follows 900 people and has no followers.
No
posts.
No
yet.
posts. Yeah.
Like, oh. Wait, this picture looks a lot like the one from yesterday.
Oh, I just saw a meme. It was actually funny. It was a girl and it was a guy. No, it was a girl in bed, I think, messaging like a guy, and it said like my parents aren't home, like where you at? Then underneath it was a cop on the phone being like, it was for like Australia, like lockdown, but I don't know if you've seen this or something. It was just like, well, where are your mom and dad? Like, so they could find the parents because they're not in lockdown or something like
quarantine.
that. Yeah. I was like, man, that's probably so true. But anyway, guys, we're real quick. We're just gonna go over sponsors because we do want to thank you to our say thank you to our sponsors, and without them, this podcast wouldn't be growing like it is. And like I said in the previous episodes, we have monetized, and the reason we're monetizing, and I just want to keep it short, sweet, to the point, is just to upgrade the quality of the content we're putting out. I don't think I realized how expensive it would be to continue to run a podcast with service charges, et cetera, gear. There's a lot that goes into it, and I didn't monetize it for a long time, but I realized that it is a smart move. And not only does it help with those costs and with the equipment, taking care of myself, my staff, et cetera, it also allows us to bring on guests for podcasts. It's a way better leverage point when I offer that I can take care of expenses for the guests to come out on the podcast or whatever needs to be done. So that is where the sponsorship comes in, and I wouldn't use these sponsors unless I truly, honestly believed in them. Quick little plug for the Patreon, guys. So as you know, I have started a Patreon account, which is a crowdfunding for content creators. And at first, I honestly was hesitant, but I kept getting messages from the fans, you guys, on how could they support the channel monetarily or the podcast. But they also didn't have big businesses or brands to become a top tier sponsor. So that's where Patreon kind of has come in. And as a content creator, I personally had no idea how expensive all of this was going to be. So that's from the equipment, traveling expenses, hosting services, and there's just so many miscellaneous costs when it comes to running the content at the level that I am currently. So the Patreon is what really helps take care of all that, and it also helps increase the quality of the content that we are putting out. So it allows me to get guests on the podcast, do collaborations, etc. So by being a patron, it is just supporting the channel and the content. The other cool thing about Patreon is it has tiers, and with those tiers comes unique perks. So I put a ton of exclusive content and episodes, digital downloads, Q&As, all sorts of things. It's exclusively on the Patreon. So if you become a patron and whatever tier you select, it has specific perks. So if you guys want to support the content, the channel, everything, myself, my brand, go check out Patreon/ZatStrength. You can pick a tier, and like I said, you guys are supporting this vision, this cause, and you're also getting a ton of exclusive content that's seen or heard nowhere else besides on the Patreon account. So check that out. Thank you so much. Back to the show. Quick little plug for the Patreon, guys. So as you know, I have started a Patreon account, which is a crowdfunding for content creators. And at first, I honestly was hesitant, but I kept getting messages from the fans, you guys, on how could they support the channel monetarily or the podcast. But they also didn't have big businesses or brands to become a top tier sponsor. So that's where Patreon kind of has come in. And as a content creator, I personally had no idea how expensive all of this was going to be. So that's from the equipment, traveling expenses, hosting services, and there's just so many miscellaneous costs when it comes to running the content at the level that I am currently. So The Patreon is what really helps take care of all that. And it also helps increase the quality of the content that we are putting out. So it allows me to get guests on the podcast, do collaborations, etc. So by being a patron, it is just supporting the channel and the content. The other cool thing about Patreon is it has tiers, and with those tiers comes unique perks. So I put a ton of exclusive content and episodes, digital downloads, Q&As, all sorts of things. It's exclusively on the Patreon. So if you become a patron and whatever tier you select, it has specific perks. So if you guys want to support the content, the channel, everything, myself, my brand, go check out Patreon/ZatStrength. You can pick a tier, and like I said, you guys are supporting this vision, this cause, and you're also getting a ton of exclusive content that's seen or heard nowhere else besides on the Patreon account. So check that out. Thank you so much. Back to the show.